Hey, so let's talk about another aspect of passage planning, which is worrying about the depth of the water. So one of the areas that we want to go to is Chincoteague Inlet. So I'm not worried about getting there. It's plenty deep, out in the Atlantic. No real concerns. But I know that when I come in here to this inlet, um, it's under 10 feet. I'm not too worried about that. But here I have to come between this area here, and it can get kind of narrow between this area, and it can get less than 5 feet if I stray to one side or the other, and that's only one chart showing me. I don't ever trust one source of information. I also look on like Navionics or something like that. But I know that when I do for this area, it doesn't make me feel more comfortable about going into this inlet. You can read about local knowledge from different places, and people warn you about the area. They give you some advice. You can't really count on visual cues for how deep the water is here. It's not very clear. Luckily, another source of information is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They do surveys fairly often to see what the depths of the water are. They give information on the last time they dredged it, what they dredged it to. Um, but when you're searching on the internet for that information, it can be difficult to find. Luckily, they have this eHydro site, on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers page. So if you go to here, um, and go ahead and zoom in on the area that you're interested in, and we'll take a look at that Chincoteague Inlet. Probably not saying it right. So that's right up here. And you can start to see some of these colored areas. These are areas that are actually going to have information. And I'll zoom way in. And if you remember when I looked at the chart, there was a right-hand turn, and I was worried about this area right here. So let's go ahead and, well, you can click on the map, or you can over here on the left-hand side, you can take a look at when, what's available. So here in March of this year, it looks like they do have some data about coming in that entire inlet. And rather than clicking over here, because I'm not familiar with the names of these, I'm going to click on the map and select this. So that definitely is the one that I want. I can see the date is still March 2025. I'm going to click on the PDF. Okay, so here's Chincoteague, and that's on page 1. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, okay, here's the inlet, here's the Atlantic, here's where I come in. So let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit more detail about what's on these charts. You can see it's color coded. Red is basically 6 to 7 feet. So I know that if I see red, I'm going to be safe, but I probably want to avoid red. So I'm gonna pay attention to anything that turns red, but I'm not worried about orange or these other colors. I have plenty of depth, and these PDFs also will show the aids to the navigation and where they are located at that time. Now, some of these get moved, so you do need to pay attention to the local notice to mariners. If there are areas that you're concerned about, you can go and check to see where the latest aids to navigation are located. And they have the little vicinity map here, so you can see that we're looking out here in 6. And as we go, down in page number, we get closer and closer to the destination. Also on this chart, they give information about the channel and the lowest depth that you'll find in the channel. I don't usually pay a whole lot of attention to that because I'm worried about specific areas, not the channel in general. But you can see that if you stay in the channel, you could potentially hit, if you're in the middle, you could hit 3.2 feet. That's pretty shallow. So there's obviously going to be some areas in here where we have to stray away from the channel to actually be able to enter the inlet during low tide. And then they give the dates and everything over here that the survey was conducted. So let's go ahead and now kind of go through each of these pages and see where I might have a problem. So if I stay center channel, I'll have no issue on this first page, page 6. Okay, so let's go look at page 5. So you have to pay attention which way is north on these. They flip them around in every single PDF. Kind of wish they'd keep them the same, but so if you stay center channel here, you're good, you're good. You turn right. So now I'm going to actually start passing over some red areas. So I know that when I come up here, it looks like I need to stay to the left a little bit. You know, stay to that port side as I'm going in. So go through here. But by the time I get down here, I'm going to start running into issues down here. So I need to make sure that I'm over here on this side. So what I would do is I would try to match these up with my my chart, and I would actually put in some waypoints to make sure that I either flag the areas of concern or I put in waypoints that will just keep me away from those areas, whichever the case may be. But you can use these surveys to make sure that you're following a safe path, you know, through here. You can see the aids to navigation. They're in here. They look pretty good. You know, there's none in the middle of the channel, which is comforting. But again, those can change. They can move around. They can be off station. So you do need to check the local notice to mariners if you're worried about the inlet you're going to. So that's one way that these PDFs can look. I'm going to show you another example. Another inlet that we've been looking at going into. I forget the name of the inlet, but I know where it's at. So let's go find that on the chart first. So the inlet that we've been looking at going into is down here. Oracoke Inlet. So if I look at this chart, it looks very straightforward. You know, we got red and green buoys. We come around here. Here's a red buoy here. But then you look at, well, if I go from this red buoy to this red buoy, I'm going to be going through some pretty shallow areas. 4.2 feet, potentially 2.6 if I go off a little bit. And the chart doesn't show a green buoy there. And it would actually be better, it looks like, if I stayed here and went around here. So what's correct and what's not correct? Should I follow the buoys? Should I follow the chart? Well, again, I don't trust any one source of information. So let's take a look at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers surveys. So let's go find that on the map. Okay, so here's Oracoke Inlet. If you remember, the area I was concerned about was right up here. So I know that, you know, the chart looked like it would be better to go this way. The buoys said to kind of go this way. So let's see what some of these PDFs show. We'll go look at the latest one from September 3rd. Okay, this one's just one page. Here's that turn. And you can see that here's buoy 10 right here. If I used these buoys as they were when the survey was conducted, here's 9, 10, 11, 12. If I stayed between them, I would actually be running through some very shallow areas. It looks like it would be better if I actually stayed outside of the channel and went this way according to the survey. It's also possible that since the survey was conducted that the Coast Guard came in and actually relocated these. But at the time of the survey, the best path was not through these in the main channel. So luckily, what the Army Corps of Engineers also does for some of these, if we zoom in, they actually give you waypoints. So here's waypoint 1, there's the lat and long. So you can actually plug those waypoints in to your chart plotter, and you can see waypoint 1, waypoint 2. So they're actually going to take you through, at the time that they conducted the survey, which appears to be the best path through this inlet. So you can use that information. Again, I wouldn't completely trust that. If we go back and look at just an older survey for that same area, like let's go to we'll go to 3 months earlier. Let's see if it looks the same 3 months ago. It does. So they still recommend you actually no, it doesn't. If you notice, 3 months earlier they have buoy marker 10 is right here, and they actually have you staying to, keeping it on your starboard side, like you would expect. So they actually have you staying in between the channel markers in this particular case, and they give you waypoints. I don't know if those waypoints are the same, and maybe the navigational aids moved, but regardless, you can see that something is shifting there, whether it's the navigational aids or it's the actual depth of the water. Something's changing there. So just by looking at this, that makes me worried. I would continue to research this. I would try to find some local knowledge about the best way to come into this inlet, the best time of day, making sure that if I need to come in at high tide, I'll try to time it so that we come in at high tide, but things like that. But regardless, this Army Corps of Engineers site, it's a great resource. If I'm ever worried about an inlet, I do jump in here. I try to find the latest survey just to see how things look. Oftentimes I take a quick look and nothing worries me at all, and I don't even think about it again. Times like this, it makes me concerned, and I keep investigating. But anyway, that's it. That's the eHydro, and I use it fairly often.